Hello, nonprofit leaders. I'm Sarah Olivieri, your host, and this podcast is here to assist people like you, executive directors, board members, and other nonprofit leaders, make a bigger impact with insights, tips, and lessons learned from nonprofit leaders and experts. Having been an executive director, a board member, and now a consultant and coach, I truly understand the challenges you face. And that's why I'm here. I'm all about working smarter, not harder, so you can make a bigger impact without the burnout. And so is our sponsor, DonorBox. DonorBox isn't just a suite of helpful fundraising tools, it's a partner that helps you raise more money and supports you in retaining your donors. I love their forward-thinking approach. Visit donorbox.org to learn more. And don't forget to sign up for the Inspired Nonprofit Leadership newsletter, where you'll get bite-sized, actionable tips just for nonprofit leaders like you, delivered weekly to your inbox. Sign up at inspirednonprofitleadership.com/sign up. Okay, let's dive into today's episode. Today, we're going to be talking about 5 reasons that communication breaks down between boards and executive directors. I have been a board member, I think at least 5 times on 5 different boards. I have been an executive director multiple times, a founder, and a coach trainer to hundreds of nonprofits, probably very much like yours. And I have seen again and again just trouble emerge in the space of nonprofit boards. I have a lot to say about that, and I'll just tell you quickly the answer is there are systemic problems with the way boards are set up that is so prone to having trouble. What are those kinds of trouble? Well, one of those things is communication between boards and executive directors. So let's dive in. So here's the first reason why I see communication troubles between boards and their executive directors. It's really this myth of separating strategic decisions from day-to-day operation decisions. You've probably heard this before. Boards should stay out of the weeds. Boards should stick to strategic decisions, policy decisions, and executive directors and leadership staff should be doing the day-to-day operations decisions. The problem is there isn't actually a clear line between the difference between a day-to-day decision and a strategic decision. In fact, most of our day-to-day decisions should be strategic decisions. And most board members aren't really in the best, most well-informed position to be even making strategic decisions. So we say, oh, it should be clear and there should be easy communication because the board's going to do strategic decisions and the staff is going to do day-to-day operations decisions, but there's no clear line. And so people are stepping on each other's toes and people are getting frustrated. And that is probably the number one reason I see why boards and executive directors have communication challenges. The second reason why I see boards and their executive directors having communication challenges is actually the executive directors are asking their boards um, to make decisions when really they really should just be informing them, right? So they want to make a decision. It's a great decision for them to make, but instead of going confidently to their board and letting them know that this is being made, this decision is being made or has been made and why, just so that the board can provide oversight, know what's going on. Instead, they get nervous and they go and ask permission rather than providing information and transparency. And I've worked with a lot of executive directors who were frustrated with their boards, not understanding and communication breaking down and their boards getting in the weeds. And in working through it, we realized actually it was the executive directors who were unintentionally causing this to happen. All right, number 3, the third reason why I often see communication breaking down between boards or board members and executive directors actually relates to this insecurity. It's executive directors showing up as insecure in their leadership And so they are not as definitive, and therefore board members get nervous. They're like, oh my, they're not sure what to do. We have to do it. And we're not really like in a great position. We're either not trained. And even if you were trained board members, even if you had a board of retired executive directors, you'd still all need to jump into the day to day running of the organization to make good decisions. So it's hard to make great decisions. So why though? Why do we have problem number 3? Why do executive directors, even when they are strong, confident leaders elsewhere, end up showing up insecure in their board meetings with their board members? It's because of this power dynamic, right? There are not many places in life where in our jobs somebody has the power to fire us but is also not really our boss, right? They're not actually deciding what we should do. And it makes us uncomfortable. And we're nervous that as executive directors get nervous, they get insecure because they're afraid that if their boards don't understand what they're doing, and don't like what they're doing, that they will get fired. And so they come in insecure, and that just actually makes the board nervous and more likely to want to fire them in the long run. Number 4, why boards and executive directors sometimes have communication breakdowns is board members feeling hesitant to ask for clarification or voice their concerns. So just like the executive directors get concerned because of this power dynamic, board members are concerned about maybe upsetting or hurting the feelings of an executive director, and they don't ask for clarification, which is not great because then you don't really understand what's going on, and then there's no oversight. Or when they have concerns, they're afraid to voice them. Oftentimes, they're afraid to voice them in the meeting. Maybe then they're having side conversations with other board members who they feel safe talking with, and then we get even weirder, more uncomfortable power dynamics because we have people having side conversations, and then the executive director probably has an idea that that's going on. I will tell you, board members, most executive directors want clarity. They want to know what you're thinking. They want what they're doing looked at. They are looking for feedback. They don't need you telling them what to do necessarily. Probably not. That's probably a bad idea, but they do want you asking critical questions, taking in the information, and really looking closely. And I haven't met an executive director who didn't love it when a board member just looked closely and compassionately and clearly asked their questions, voiced their concerns, and was open to the answers that came following that. All right, number 5 reasons why executive director and board communication or frustration ensues. Back to those executive directors again. I love them so much. They're my people who I love working with, but they have so much in their heads running their organizations. And when they make decisions, the number of factors and data that usually went into into that decision, it would take probably like an hour to explain to the board. So they get up and they present to their board about what's going on. They're sharing about decisions and things, and they share way too many details, more details than anybody could take in out of context or in the course of a short meeting. And then board members feel a little confused about what's really going on because, you know, they've received a fire hose of information. And when you get a fire hose of information, it's no longer learning, it's just an assault on our brains, right? And so board members feel like, oh, like I'm unclear, and maybe the direction it was kind of hard to follow because the executive director was sharing so many details rapid fire, and it was like, now I'm confused about the big picture. And executive directors are doing this because they're nervous that board members aren't going to understand, or it's a really important decision and the board might put the brakes on, and then that will make their jobs a lot harder and it'll be bad for the organization, and they don't want that to happen. So they're under a lot of stress. And for them, it's all clear in their head, but they don't realize that they're not actually adding more detail is not actually making it clearer for the board. So those are the top 5 reasons I see communication breaking down between executive directors and boards. And if you've seen a theme here, it usually has to do with who should be making the decision and how confident are we that the right person or the right group of people is making that decision. When decision-making lines are actually clear, and strategy and policy decisions versus day-to-day operation decisions, those are not actually clear. But when it's actually clear, then we get much clearer communication. Thank you all for joining me today. Bye, everybody.
You've been listening to Inspired Nonprofit Leadership. Thanks so much for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode or the bonus episodes. And while you're at it, please leave a rating and review, and be sure to share with your friends and colleagues. Tune in every week for more useful insights and wisdom on nonprofit leadership. Thanks so much for all you do for the communities you serve. Until next time, all the best.